All right, cool. Before we get busy on the teardown, what I want to do is talk a little bit more about the maintenance, and y'all are probably familiar with deliming these units. There's a couple steps that we want to make sure that we understand. I've got a kit here of a deliming kit, and it's a 5-gallon bucket. We've got a pump. And then you've got your hoses. Now, when we use this, Mike, let's talk about what kind of solution we're going to use when we do the deliming.
We recommend a white vinegar, something that's going to be food grade, food safe. There are some commercial products that are out there that may make it quicker. We don't have any that are specifically approved for the heater, but
right.
As long as it's food safe and it's not going to be. Am I on?
He's on. He's on one. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
So you're saying food grade vinegar. We don't have some other stuff that's not really approved, but do they use them or?
Yeah, there are other commercially available products that will delime and be quicker than vinegar. Vinegar is what we recommend for the heater. We don't specifically recommend another product, but if you're going to use another product, you want to make sure that it's one, food safe.
Right.
And that it's not going to damage copper, stainless steel, or the plastic parts for the valves.
And where we're gonna hook up, we're using these isolation valves, the isolation kit. And what you're gonna do is you can go ahead and hook your lines up. You still have water connected and all of that. You haven't valved off the unit yet, so you're gonna turn the unit on. You're gonna run it up to 140 degrees, and you're gonna keep that running for about 1 minute to 2 minutes. The whole reason is we're going to try to close the bypass. It's got a bypass in there that allows that cold water to mix with the hot water, and we want that bypass closed, because if you don't close that bypass, when you delime the unit, all you're doing is deliming the bypass.
Yeah, we're just going to pump up and through the bypass and then back out, because that's the path of least resistance. We're not going to pump up through the actual heat exchanger.
So we turn it up to 140, the bypass closes. Once the bypass closes, we just unplug the unit. We unplug the unit, and then you can go ahead and valve it off and then run your solution through, and it takes about 45 minutes or so, and then you should be able to get that delimed.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you unplug it, and that's a key factor.
Yes.
If you turn off the demand for hot water and let this cool down, it'll open that bypass valve back up. So unplugging it just kills the power and it can't open back up.
Anything over 140 degrees, it's going to close the bypass. So that's the key step in the process of deliming the unit. But I just wanted to kind of cover that before we moved on. It's something that we want to make sure we got really good. Go ahead.
We tell you to take it up to 140 because that's a temperature we know that it's going to happen. But it's actually about 130 degrees is when that bypass will close.
Yeah, but at 140 we know it's going to close. We let it run for a couple minutes.
And we're just ensuring that it did close.
Then you unplug it. All right, so that's a little bit about the maintenance. And obviously, again, we've got a cold water filter that has to be changed from time to time. And, I usually recommend when you put it in about a couple days after to check it, because, when you turn off water and then you turn it back on, water, the sediment in the pipes can get knocked loose and flow down here to the cold water. Yeah. All right, y'all ready to start taking this thing apart? All right.
Okay. Go
ahead and let's do this. I can see y'all. So, all right. So we got our screwdrivers. It's always good to have the screwdrivers that are magnetic. That way you can get all the screws, especially when you're working on it vertical. It's a good idea to have the magnetic screwdrivers. But the first thing what we're going to do is we're going to take off the temperature control. If you want to take that off, it's plugged into your control board. It's got a Molex connector here. And all you're going to do, there's a tab that you're just going to press in and pull it out. There we go. Did we get it?
There we go. One.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can see how that Molex connector, all you got to do is just press down on the top part and it'll actually unhook it. You don't have to get your finger in there too deep, because if you do, you're going to be pressing on the outer part and it's going to be very hard to pull out. Okay, so what we want to do now is we're going to take off the parts that are serviceable parts, right?
Yeah, I think when we talked about it, we're going to go through what you would most commonly see in the field that you're going to have to take loose in service. And the first is probably going to be that flame sensor, to take it off and clean it. So let's go ahead and start there.
Now you notice these screws that are on the flame sensor, we're going to take off this entire plate. They're the smaller screws. Go ahead.
Before we take the screws out,
oh yeah,
this yellow wire is the AFR, or air-fuel ratio. It's a locking spade connector. So right here at the base of the spade, there's a
button,
release, a little button. So if you squeeze right there at the base, that will let you pull that off.
You see this hole that's right there? That's what it locks onto. So you've got to press that down, because if you don't and you start pulling on that yellow wire, you'll end up, you know, tearing it apart, and we get calls about that a lot. From time to time, somebody will do that. So you'll take that one off. You take off your flame sensor and your igniter.
Yeah, when you take the igniter off, I like to slide the boot back on the wire so we don't lose it, and it just slides right off.
And now it's held in by 3 screws. You just go ahead and take these smaller screws out. These screws, they're going to be a little different than the other screws that we're going to take out today. So remember that these 3 screws go with the flame sensor igniter, and you'll understand once we start pulling this thing apart.
Yeah. These are the only 3 small screws like this that we're going to take loose.
You like that, don't you?
Now, when we're lifting this plate off, take care, especially with a heater that's been in the field, because that gasket's going to be brittle. And you probably want to keep one of these gaskets on your truck, or a bunch of these gaskets on your truck, because they are so brittle. They are going to break. But those parts, those components just slide right out.
And here's what he's talking about. Here's the gasket. And it can get torn and damaged, so it's a good idea to keep some of these on the truck.
Jerry, let's talk about the igniter and flame rod.
Okay, we've got our igniter and our flame rod. Now, the flame rod, obviously, it's there to sense the flame. Your flame rod's the longer piece, and that flame rod is actually over this middle chamber in your manifold. So that's what's going to light first. When we light the gas here, we've got to be over that middle chamber, and we're going to sense flame. Now, the AFR rod is there to measure the combustion, our air-fuel ratio.
It does, and you'll notice that it's a smaller straight rod, so it's over a specific section of the
Exactly.
burner, where the other one's catching. Each one of the burners has a high and low fire, so we're measuring a specific current there, and we know what that should be, and that's how we know what the combustion values are.
Yeah, and it's basically like an oxygen sensor on a car. That's all it's really looking for. But if you have a problem with it seeing the flame, the best thing to do is when you inspect this, look at the ceramic, make sure there's no cracks, chips, it's not broken, and then you can use some fine steel wool and polish this up so you can get a good, so it can actually see that flame.
Yeah, and this is a good one. We've actually fired this heater so you can see the discoloration that happens when it's exposed to heat. And
yeah.
It's okay.
All right. And again, you've got a sight glass right here. We need to be really careful today. We don't want to knock that out. That'd be a bad thing. So be careful when we're taking this apart for that sight glass. All right, the next thing we want to do is we're going to talk about the flow sensor. We're going to take the flow sensor out, which is on our incoming line. So because it's one of our serviceable parts, or our parts, so we're going to have to get these lines out of the way. We're going to take out the control board next, but we're going to start with this flow sensor.
Yeah, and I asked to do this way because this is a part that we're going to pull out occasionally if we're having problems getting, and it's nice that we can pull this out without pulling everything else out to get to it. It's pretty convenient.
Now, it's held in by 2 clips. Those clips are here. When we get the clips off, there's one on the inlet, on the front side of the valve and then one on the back side of the valve. Both of those need to come off. They just pull straight up. They like that. They'll sit down on the pipe on the connections here. And you can tell that one side's larger than the other on the backside clip. But on the front of the flow valve, it's a different color. It's a silver clip. That one is unique. That one only goes on the front side of this flow valve. So remember that.
Okay.
Please.
And once we get those clips out, we just lift up off of the water inlet and give it a little wiggle. It'll pop off. It's held on by an O-ring. And then we slide it off of the pipe that goes up to our heat exchanger. We pull that out and we just unplug it. It's plugged in two places on the board. There's actually two wiring harnesses.
Yeah, you can go ahead and take these out. Okay, so we've got one here. And then we've got another right beside it.
So there's actually the two wiring harnesses. That's because this has two components in it.
Exactly.
One is the flow sensor, which is underneath that. It's kind of hard to see.
Shot of it. There we go.
There we go. And we've got those three diverters that will spin the water, and that causes the impeller to spin. So
yeah, there's an impeller on the other side of those diverters, and you can actually blow on it, and you can move that impeller.
The other component that's on here, why we have two wiring harnesses, is a valve that actually will throttle down the water flow if we are having trouble maintaining the temperature.
To get it? Yeah, if it doesn't fire, is that what you're saying? Open up a hot water faucet, it doesn't fire. Yeah, that's an indication that you might have an issue with the flow valve, or if water doesn't go through it too. I mean, if you may have a clogged inlet filter to the point where it's not allowing water to go through the unit.
Or the valve may actually be closed.
Or closed, yes.
There is a fault code for the flow sensor, but you're only going to see that when these are hooked up in multiple heater applications. When a primary heater asks for assistance from a secondary heater, and it never senses the flow when the valve opens.
Okay. All right, let's move on to our control board is next. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these, go ahead and take all the connections off the control board. Again, these are the Molex connectors. They should come out fairly easy if you just squeeze the top part of the connector. And once you do this a lot, you'll get used to it, and it's pretty simple. Sometimes I'll take my screwdriver and kind of press on the top piece and then pull it out. But, you know, after you get kind of used to it, you don't have to go down too far on that connection, because if you do, you'll be pressing on the actual outer part of the female part. What now? What is, we all right? Okay. Do you need us to hold on? Yeah, I still see everybody working on it. So just go ahead and take all your connections off, and we'll take this control board out. Now, this control board does everything. I mean, it's the thing that's going to make the unit run. It's looking at, you know, we have temperature sensors here that sense all the temperature in the tank, make sure we're getting flow sense. All of our dip switch settings are on this control board. Again, see, even, whoa, that one's tight. There we go.
Yeah, that's the logic So it's looking at all the inputs, the temperatures, the flow, the exhaust temperatures to make sure that we're running safely and providing the temperature of water that we want.
All right. All right, so we've got our control board out.
And it's once you get that screw out, it's these two posts in the bottom, it just lifts up and slides right out.
We got it? All right, I think they're ready. All right, next thing we want to do is take off the gas valve, Zach. So when we're doing this, now there's a trick to this. You see these larger stainless steel screws, or they're not that shiny, but the larger screws are what we're going to be paying attention to.
These that are around the perimeter that are the larger diameter and the nickel plated.
Nickel plated,
not
yes.
the zinc plated.
Yeah, those are the ones that we're going to be taking off. We also have, I don't know if we can get a good shot of it. Let me see. Yeah, we can kind of. There is a kind of a copper color screw. There we go. That will have to be taken out on the gas inlet here. So we'll take that one off first. You got a screwdriver?
I do. And there's a few of the components that are attached through these screws that are some other components. You got the brass screw?
Yeah, I got a brass screw right here.
So the spark igniter being one of them, and that's mounted up here on the corner. Let's get that one first.
Mm-hmm. Then we'll go ahead and take off our ground here, and we've got a couple grounds here on here, and we've also got our surge protector. We're going to go ahead and take that off as well. Leave that on.
So the surge box will just pop right out. Uh-oh.
Now we'll get that. Now let's talk about the surge box. Now you've got a couple fuses here, correct?
Yeah, these are glass fuses. They're available at an electronics hardware store, or you can order them from our parts department if they go out. If they've blown, it normally means that we've had a power surge, or somebody may have hooked us up to the incorrect voltage, hooked it up to a 240 volt circuit
Okay.
instead of a 120 volt circuit.
All right, we'll go ahead and take our surge box out. It's got our on-off switch on there as well. Look at me. There we go. And all I'm going to do with it, I'm just going to kind of hang it over here. I'll leave it connected to the power wires to it, but just kind of get it out of the way.
So I'm going to go ahead and unplug the heater that goes to our condensate trap and get it out of the way to make it easier to pull this out.
And let's go ahead and, well, again, we're going to take these nickel-plated screws out. They're the larger screws, and that's really what we're going to be concerned with, besides the brass-colored screw on the gas valve. And you'll kind of, these are really all we really deal with, other than the fan. Fan's got some different screws, but really it's all these larger screws.
Yeah, and the reason we don't want to take the smaller screws out is because there's a gasket in between the two plates on that manifold.
Exactly.
And we don't want to take the chance of damaging it.
Yeah, and there's no real need. Whenever you get a gas valve, it comes with the manifold, correct?
Yeah, it comes as a complete assembly, gas valve and manifold.
All right, so once we got all those screws off, you're going to kind of pull your gas valve up, the manifold off, and just kind of pull it off.
Get this wire.
Yes. There's actually a temperature sensor you're going to need to kind of move, take apart as well. But there's the gas valve is out here, and we're going to wait on y'all. We can see you.
Yeah. Can we get a close-up on the thermistor? Because when it's connected, it's I can't get it back together. The button to release that is actually here at the short end. Oh, my fingers are too big.
See, see the button right there? There we go, yeah. Yeah. Say, we're going to take the wires off the gas valve once we get it up. We'll take the wires off because we want to talk about how you connect the gas valve, because really those are the only, that's really the spot where you can get it kind of confused. You can put the wrong wire with the wrong solenoid valve. And we want to make sure that we see and do this properly. So we'll take it off once we get the other gas valve out. We'll kind of walk through it. Yeah, I think they got it. Yeah, so just pick it up and kind of pull it forward or pull it up, and you should be able to get it off that, that O-ring on the inlet of the gas.
May have a screw left in it.
Yeah, lift up and pull up. Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
All right, now flip it over, and you'll see all of your solenoid valves. And you've got 4 solenoid valves here.
5.
There's actually 5, sorry. Yeah, there's 5. There's a main solenoid valve, modulating, and then 3 chambers here. Now, each one of these connections is unique to the solenoid valve, so we've got to keep those straight when we put them back on. If you look at the wiring, there's a number on the wiring. You see, this says number 6 or 9. Now, you look on the side of the solenoid valve, it's going to have a 9. So we know that that wire goes to this solenoid valve. So we'll take all of those off. And now we know, how to change it, so we've got that.
And those are all marked except for the proportional solenoid, which is down here on the bottom.
Yeah, but it's got its own wiring harness.
Exactly.
And one thing I'm going to show you too here in just a moment, kind of a quick tip when we're putting them back together. Once you get it all unhooked, and you're going to want to take your hose off. Now, this hose is there for the proportional valve to measure the pressure, correct?
Yeah, we're looking for a blockage here in the heat exchanger and the burners, and if we overpressurize because of a blockage and the fan's blowing in here,
right,
air pressure is going to come here and it's going to close the diaphragm in that valve and prevent air from going, or prevent gas from going through. So
right,
it's a safety.
Okay, so we take that off, but take your wiring harness. Where'd it go? What did I do with it? It's right here. Okay, you take your wiring harness, and if you look how it's molded, it kind of is molded the way it's supposed to go. So that's just kind of a tip. They've got zip ties on there, and the way that the slack in it kind of makes it molded to where those solenoid valves are supposed to go. So that kind of gives you a kind of a guide. But your proportional gas valve, the modulating solenoid valve, has its own wiring harness right here. Oh, sorry. Right. Where am I at here? Right here. There it is. Yeah. It's got its own wiring harness, and
we could just leave that
yeah,
plugged
I
in
like
so
to
we
leave
don't
it
lose
on.
it.
That way I don't lose it.
We good?
Do the fan. Yes. Yeah, you should be able, and we can even pull the burner out. Well, we're going to pull the burner out in a moment, and you can look at the burner, and we can talk about even how you clean that out. You can put that in a degreaser. You can use water, but then you need to get it dried off.
Yeah, with some compressed air.
Compressed air, and get a vacuum in there and vacuum it all out. The next thing we want to talk about is, and plus when you have it all open like this, you got a lot of room. Vacuum the box out, get all the debris that's in the box out as well. The next thing we're going to talk about is the fan. From time to time, you might have to replace the fan or work on the fan or service the fan. If you look at the very bottom of the unit, there is this white piece of tape, and there's holes in there. So what I want you to do is go ahead and put your screwdriver through the white piece of tape. I gotta find out where I'm going here.
You're right.
And that is designed for us to get to our fan. Now we can lay it down. So that's why you have to have the long-handled screwdriver, or the long screwdriver. It's there for the, now you can use a short stubby screwdriver, that's fine. But it's just a lot easier to use the longer screwdriver, and make sure it's magnetic, because it's, this is where, if it's vertical, this is when you can drop the screw. That's different. Usually that stays
Secured
together. Now the fan, it's actually in a, gosh, I keep forgetting I have that. It's got a little, that wasn't put on back right. There's a little lip here that the fan kind of sets in. So it should be pretty snug and tight against the bottom of the burner chamber, and it just lifts right out. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take that. Dang it! What did I do? Kind of out. What do we do here? Take that off. Yeah, and really, you think about it, this, we don't have pressure switches on this water heater, so we measure the RPM speed of the blower. And if you get some buildup in this housing here, it's a good idea to blow that off, clean it out, because it can affect the RPM speed, and the unit won't run to optimum level.
Well, it's going to run at a certain RPM that it needs to run at, but if we've got debris on there, we're not going to move as much air, and it's going to work harder.
So that's our fan. Y'all got it? Okay, cool. All right. Then let's go ahead and get the burner out. We're going to do the burner next. Now, the thing about it is, you see these two screws right here and here. We're not going to have to take those off when we're taking out the burner.
That's an air damper that helps us get the right amount of air for our mixture.
Okay, so we've got two screws on the bottom, on the back side of the unit. It's all the way in the air chamber, or in the burner chamber at the bottom. Right, I'll see if I can, there. You see those two screws? We're going to take those out. And when we're putting this back together, we got to remember to put those back in too. That's something people always forget sometimes.
Jerry, a service tip while we're doing this, that air damper that you mentioned that we don't have to take those screws out, if for any reason we ever had to replace the burner, the new burner won't come with that damper, so we need to make sure we move this from the old burner to the new one.
Good tip.
That screw doesn't want to come out.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
There we go.
All right, and then again, we're going to be taking off the larger screws.
Yeah, here across the top, there's 3 of them.
We leave the smaller screws alone.
You didn't bring a needle nose pliers? You are the man.
You should have a pair too.
Probably.
I brought 2 pair. All right, now here comes the fun part. We're going to pull out the burner. Now the thing about this is, if you lift up on this burner piece, the bottom piece of the burner, it comes up. So you're going to have to hold that down and take some pliers.
Grab right there in the middle. Now it's It's got some sharp edges, so be careful that you don't cut yourself. And a little gentle pressure or a quick yank will break that free and let it pull on up.
There you go. Good job. Yeah, this is. And you're going to have to put your hand, you're going to have to kind of put your hand on that box and try to pull it out. But I've noticed if I kind of lift up and lift down a little bit, and then I kind of give it a good tug there, it'll pop. There you go. Somebody got something. You got it? Good job. Now you look at the burner. It's got 16 individual stainless steel burner, individual plates. Again, when we're servicing this, we can use a degreaser. You know, you can use water. You can clean it out, compressed air, whatever you got to do to get it out, to get it cleaned out. And then you're inspecting it. You're going to look for any discoloration or some condensation, maybe an issue. You can look for any damage to the burner because of condensation. And then we know we've got a problem maybe with the trap or something like that. But it's a good idea when you do service the water heater, sorry about that, that you pull the burner out, take a look at it, make sure it's working properly.
And you remember earlier we talked about the AFR?
Yes.
And the flame rod. If we could get a shot here of the front of the burner again, we see that we've got our larger orifice for our high fire and our smaller orifice for our low fire burners.
Right.
And they're stacked, they're staggered. Mm-hmm. So we'll have a high flame, low flame, high flame, low flame.
Right.
And Jerry mentioned earlier, be careful for that sight glass.
And you don't want to take this apart, too. I mean, that's one thing. It comes just like this when you order it. I wouldn't take it apart unless you really don't like somebody and you want them to spend a long time putting it together.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Yes. Yeah. Very good point. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the bypass. Again, what the bypass is, it allows us to overfire the unit at lower temperatures, like say 120 degrees. We're able to overfire the unit, get hotter water coming out, and then mix it down with that colder water coming in from the bypass, and it allows us, you know, it helps with the condensation. It helps with you know, flow not being so low whenever you get the lower temperatures.
And the big one is condensation on this copper heat exchanger, so that we're firing warmer temperatures, because condensation is corrosive, and copper and condensation don't mix.
They don't mix very well at all. No. All right, it's held in by two screws. Two clips. Go ahead and take those clips out. You're just going to have to kind of finagle your way through. I always get the bottom one first. And then my clip is here. And we'll look at the clips in a moment, and when we put this back together, so you can see how easy it is to get them back on. But again, you're just going to kind of pull up on the top piece of copper and then grab a hold of the bypass and just pop it off.
Yeah. And just like the flow sensor, it's a snug fit, so you might have to give it a little wiggle to break it loose.
Oh, I know what I was doing. Let me take this off. It's connected to this multicolored wire. Go ahead and disconnect that, and then you can kind of bring it back here and pull it up. It looks an awful lot like our flow sensor. It really does.
It's identical. It's the same body almost.
But you've got these different wiring harnesses, and we've got to make sure we got the right one. It's also the flow sensor is a little bit larger because it's doing more work. But you know, you've got this is the bypass. All it's going to do is just add that cold water.
Easy way to tell the difference, besides the different colored wiring harness, is there's no diverter, no impeller in that bypass valve.
Exactly. All right, so we've got this. The next thing I want to take off is you've got this, it's a drain. We can actually get this piece of copper out of the way. This is the outlet. This is actually going, or inlet's actually going into the secondary heat exchanger from that bypass. So it's held on by one clip going into the secondary heat exchanger. Let's go ahead and take that off. And then you have these ceramic heaters. The ceramic heater is on there. Go ahead and take it off. We're going to put it back on. I'm going to show you how to do that, an easy way of doing that. And so we'll just go ahead and get this piece out of the way.
You want to take the other heater off?
Yeah, I've got two of them. Sorry about that. Yeah. So you've got two ceramic heaters on it. We'll go ahead and get that out of the way. But what we want to take off here is this. This is actually a drain. So when we drain this is for draining the heat exchanger. It's the small piece, piece of copper.
Show them the
Oh, it's right
drain
here.
on the
Sorry
bottom.
about that. Yeah. You can see this right here. This is actually a drain.
And it's a petcock, kind of like you would find on a radiator. You just crack it open, and it lets all the water drain
and you
out.
can drain that heat exchanger. Easy way of doing that. Held in by two clips, the smaller clips, so go ahead and take those off. And just pull down on it. You know, this copper is very bendable, so be careful with it. You don't want to kind of get it too kinked.
Yeah, it's more of a soft drawn.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect right here. This is a heater that's running up to the top heaters. This is just a connection. Go ahead.
Yeah, all these yellow wires are going to the heaters.
You go ahead.
Other side.
Oh, it is?
No.
No,
right
that's
here.
it? Oh, shoot. Yeah. What was I thinking? Way to go. All right. And we're not going to take these off because we're just going to pull the heat exchanger out. Now, Mike, you went ahead and took these off. This is our double safety up here. We've got our thermistor, and then we're measuring the temperature. I think this one opens up at 140, and this one's 159, something like that.
Well, this one actually is measuring the temperature and providing feedback to the board. If it sees temperatures that start to creep above 140, it will derate and try and lower those temperatures to save the venting. If for some reason this wasn't reading accurately and we had those higher temperatures, the exhaust high limit here, can we get there we go. That actually opens at 149 degrees, and it shuts down the gas valve.
All right. So let's go ahead and take off our condensate. You should have this already disconnected. It's got the heat tape on there.
That's our condensate drain, and we got the tape on there with the heater to keep it from freezing.
All right, and now we're going to take off the outlet water tube, held in by one clip. And let's talk about this. Show them I can't do that. I need to do that. If you look at here, I don't know if we can see this. Here's your ceramic heater on the inlet. We'll just use this as an example. But I said we were sensing temperature everywhere. There's our thermistor right there beside. It's held, both the heater and the thermistor are held in by one screw on the inlet and outlet. But that's where we're sensing temperature, and we also don't want it to freeze, so we've got a freeze protection there as well. All right, so we're getting all of our wires out of the way. And we went ahead and got that up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this heat exchanger out.
We're ready to remove the heat exchanger. And it's just these three large stainless screws on the top.
Yeah, we're We're not going to touch the screw that's all the way at the back of the unit. We're not going to take that off. Just these 3 on the top. Now, when you're doing this, you're going to have to get the exhaust. The exhaust is going to have to come back through the jacket. So you're going to have to take out the outlet water line and then kind of pull it down, or pull it up and down.
So you're just going to lift up?
Yep.
And then slide it
Slide
back
it
and
down.
out.
It will get you too. Watch your fingers. Move that. There we go.
So this is the level we'd have to take it down to if we had an overheat cutoff that opened, because it wraps all the way around the heat exchanger.
Yeah, when we get it out, we'll talk about. Let's let them get it out, and then we'll talk about that overheat cutoff, because I got some things we need to point out as well. And two, if you're, you can replace one or the other, correct? And which we're not going to, really do today, but we can, kind of show them where that is and what that overheat cutoff does. You have your water? You need a drink?
I do.
Hmm?
Got one out.
There he goes. I wanted to see that. Good job. Way to go. Look at that. All right, way to go. All right, if you look at your heat exchanger, like Mike was saying, you've got this this thermal fuse that wraps all the way around the unit, and that's really there if this thermal fuse sees temperatures of over 430 degrees. It's going to open up, and the only way you're really going to see that is if you have a breach in the heat exchanger, or you've got a hole, or flue gases are getting out.
It may have a bad gasket, but it's probably going to be from a breach. And if you'll notice, it even comes back here and connects to the pipe on the back of the combustion chamber itself.
Right there.
And if that does open up, it's going to open the gas valve circuit, and it's going to prevent the heater from operating. It's a safety concern, definitely, at that point.
Yeah, so we need to make sure that we have that back on. If we do have to replace that heat exchanger, we've got that put back on, and it's put on properly. Again, it's connected to the gas valves. So whenever you're a troubleshooting tip, if this ever opens up and you're going out to a house where they have no hot water at all, they can't get it to run, turn it off, turn it back on. The first thing you're going to do is listen for the clunk, clunk. If you don't hear that clunk, that means that a safety is open. So it could be the thermal fuse. It could be, our safety up here. It could be our manual safety over here. But all of those, the blue and the white lines are connected to our gas valve.
If we go back to our gas valve harness, I don't know what we've done. Here we are.
Yeah.
All of the harnesses have in common that blue wire. So when we leave the gas valve, after we send power to the gas valve, we go out to that blue wire, then we run through our safeties.
Yes. So we've got to, if one of those opens up, it kills power to the gas valve, and we won't be able to make fire. All right.
We ready to put it back in?
Yeah, y'all, any questions? Y'all want to take a quick break and then come back and put it back together? All right, let's go ahead and take about a 5 or 10 minute break, or 10-minute break, and we'll come back and we'll put it back together. Answer any questions. All right, what we're going to do now is we're just going to go ahead and put it back together, and we're basically going to put it back together the same way we took it off. We may do a couple parts different. But it's pretty much the same thing. So we make sure we have all of our screws.
Oh,
What do
You
do
wanted
with
to
that?
point out to them.
Oh, yes, yes. Go ahead.
I almost forgot. Primary and secondary heat exchangers
Yes.
are separable. And it's just these screws here along the top that hold those together, and they're on both sides.
Yeah, so I mean, you can replace either or, but whenever you order this, you have to order it. It all comes together. How does it? Let's talk about when we order the heat exchanger.
When you order, the secondary heat exchanger is actually a separate part number. The primary heat exchanger is a separate part number, but it comes with the burner box.
With the burner box, that's the part. Okay, so we don't really ever have to take the burner box off. We're just looking at the primary and secondary heat exchanger. Now, you know, like we said, you've got this thermal fuse. That's the one thing we want to make sure that we've got it on. It's all correct. So we're going to take a look at the back side, make sure that it's all hooked with these clips here. On the top side of your, or on the bottom side of your primary heat exchanger, the thermal fuse goes on the top side of the clip, not the bottom. The bottom will be wide open. If you look here, the bottom clip was going to be open, so we're not going to have to worry about that. Now, as you move down the water passage to the outlet here, when we move the thermal fuse is then moved to the bottom side, and the top side is wide open.
And that's centered up here on our burn chamber.
Yes. Okay, so we make sure we have that in there. Now we're going to go ahead and put our
Heat exchanger back in.
heat exchanger back in. Again, we're going to put the outlet through first and then just kind of line it up. Make sure we don't have any wires. If we still have some wires in here, make sure we don't have anything on the bottom. Those 3 screws on the top should mount up.
Yeah, and the stainless steel lip goes over top of the lip of the case.
Exactly.
And the burn box has got a spot that recesses into this mount that's screwed into the back of the frame.
Yeah,
the
and
box.
you'll see that you can line it up with the 2 screws through the burn box here. You'll see the holes there. That good? All right.
So we'll just start with our stainless steel screws here across the top.
Yeah, they got it.
We might have to rush to keep up with them now.
And it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter on the screws. It's just the larger screws. So just make sure you're getting those screws. Remember, there's 3 screws, or excuse me, there's 6 screws that are different. You've got your brass screw, and then the 3 smaller screws for the flame sensor igniter, and then your 2 screws that have actual washers on them. That's for your fan. So remember, everything else is those larger screws. All right, the next thing we're going to put on is going to be our drain. Once we get that on, we got it all on good? We're going to put our drain on. Actually, do we want to put we're taking it off, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably want to, let's go ahead and put the bypass on first. I'm sorry. Remember, the bypass doesn't have the impeller and does not have the diverter.
And it's got the multicolored wiring harness.
Now, how we put this in, actually, no, we're going to have to do that and give me the other piece. This is going to go on with this other piece as well, your other water tube. And it's going to go down underneath here. Wait, I'm wrong. I'm backwards here. Oh, wow.
Get that wire out of there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we're all right? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to clip on the water passage. Okay.
Okay.
if you see how, here, Heather, get a shot here. See how the water passage is going to go. You've got one end going into the secondary heat exchanger. The other down here at the bottom is going to go into our flow valve. So we're going to have a connection here and a connection there. And we're going to be using this. There's also a third one. We're going to use this center connection, which is right here. So we're going to put this on first.
And the larger section of that clip goes on the plastic.
So that's on.
In.
Now we've got that on. Now we're going to put in our bypass. Sorry, I got it. On the bypass, okay, if you look at the connection, your multicolor wiring is going to be on the top, so you're going to have to position the valve or the bypass where the multicolor wire comes out on top, or this way. Here, I'll show you. Yeah. It's going to come oriented like this.
The gear motor is on
the gear motor, yes.
Top.
Okay. Mitch, I think we lost connection to you. Yes. Just the tablet connection, I think. The vertical, yeah. I'll try to get that out of the way. This is. Do we need you, or do we need to go ahead and move on? Okay. Okay. All right. So we've got our gearbox on the top. Wires are coming out on top, so we're going to position it this way. And Mike does something kind of handy. He just pulled this up, the whole water bypass, the waterway up. Now we're just going to set it back down on the.
I'm going to put that clip on before we put it in.
Yeah, let's have that. There we go.
And then when we fold that down, it'll line up.
Again, 2 clips. The larger end of the clip is going on the plastic. Woo.
And I'm just going to add another service tip. That multicolored wiring harness, go ahead and make sure that it's laid out along the end of the burner box, because we're going to have to connect it to the rest of the harness, and it's easier to fish it out up here now than after all the pieces
after you get everything in. All right, so y'all got it over there? Okay. Now let's go ahead and
put the drain in.
Our drain in. Okay, yep. Now I wish we could have a camera where we can see.
Over top what they're doing.
Okay. Y'all are looking at yourself. You know, the big service tip, though, when we're putting these back together is make sure you have the wires out, you know, where you know they are. I know whenever you take the box off, it's really intimidating sometimes to see all of those wires, but really, everything has its purpose, and once you get the hang of it, and you've done this a couple times, you'll get very familiar with what goes where. But the easiest way for us, like when I leave everything clipped on and out of the way so I don't lose it, and I know where it is.
And we've done this a couple of times.
Yeah, we've done it a couple times. All right, so let's go ahead and put our drain back in. I have to go under this. There we go. And these are the smaller clips. Again, the larger side is going to go on the plastic. The smaller side of the clip is going to go
On the pipe.
on the pipe. And the top side's actually looks like a brass piece, yeah. Hold it in there. There we go. Okay. Yeah, there you go, right there. Sure. If you look at the clip, I have to move it that way. So there's the smaller piece and the larger piece. If you look at the clip, it just pops right on right there. There it is. All right. You're welcome.
You want to show them how to put the heater block on now?
Sure. You want to come this way? Yeah, this is something we get a lot of questions about. We're going to go ahead and put our heater block back on our connection. Now, there's a little trick to this. You look at the heater block, and you see this this channel here. This channel is going to go against the copper. So we're going to push that against the copper. Also on the heater block, you have another, it's kind of like a guide. That clip's actually going to rest right in between that. But the thing is, you just got to put it on. You got to pop it on. You see how it sits between the two raised pieces, and then we've got our channel against the copper.
And we've got the other one that we took off that we need to reattach as well.
And it's going to go down here on the bottom piece.
Same. So the beveled edge is going up on the pipe so we get good contact.
Can you switch to the other view, Victor? Thank you. No, I was talking to here. Sorry. I think he's got it.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing to put back on.
Yeah,
this.
it is. The heaters are the hardest thing because it takes usually you spend more time doing that than anything else because it takes a little bit to figure out. But as long as you put the that beveled edge right there on the copper, you're okay. It's not going to be Oh, sure. We'll do this again. You see you've got your channel here for your clip, and then you're going to put this piece here, sorry.
Yeah, the beveled edge where it's
right there.
kind of form-fitted for the pipe.
It's going to go against the pipe, and then you're just going to put your clip, and see my clip is right here. I'm going to grab the back side of that heater and just going to pop it on.
If you want to line the clip up on the heater and then snap it on, some people find that a little more easy, as long as it gets on there.
Yeah, you want it on there because that's you don't want the unit to freeze and water inside that tube to freeze, because that's kind of bad for this unit. It's not going to run properly.
Well, and it's bad for everybody because freeze damage is, of course, not covered by the warranty.
Exactly.
So we do not want it to freeze.
All right, let's go ahead and put our burner. When y'all are ready, we're going to go ahead and put the burner back in.
It looks like they're still.
Oh, we're still on it? Okay. Right, yeah, on the back side of the burner box. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, because it'll try to move on you. Okay.
Okay.
Again, be careful with the sight glass on this one.
Yeah, it's got these channels on the side of the burner, Jerry, and they're going to line up and go in this channel that's here on the side of the burn box.
I don't know if I can see that channel right there. Oh, okay. There. It's back down. I don't know if we can get it. It's right there. That's all right.
So we're just going to line those up with our channels. Be careful of the sight glass and be careful not to cut yourself.
Yeah, because this is where you start cutting yourself.
And when it slides back in there, it should fit snugly, and the holes there across the top should line up.
And then go ahead and put those the screws back in the top and in the burn box. Larger headed nickel screws. We're only going to do these 3. And remember, it's only the top 3 screws on the
burner.
On the burner. We're not going to do the 3 smaller, the 3 openings at the bottom of the burner, just the top 3, because we're going to put some other things on here. Thanks.
Yeah, that had a little wire on it.
It's right here. It's not magnetic.
And the corner that Jerry's working on has got the little wire retainer that's going to hold our wires for our overheat and high limit.
Yeah, I mean, you could have it on there. It's just a way to keep those wires together. You know, it's not a...
Keeps them off of the burn chamber so they don't get hot.
That's the whole reason. I think we have one more. Ah! why. That's why we get one of these too. The only thing I've noticed is that you have to do this every so often. You start losing that. Yeah, they do, and start dropping screws. Yeah, again, we're gonna get this out of the way.
Jerry, I'd like to point out, when we took that loose, I only took one of the thermistors loose. These are color-coded to separate them, but the fittings are the same. So if you don't match the colors,
Right.
or if you're colorblind, you could connect those in reverse.
That's a good point. Even if you're colorblind, you'd be able to tell that one's darker. You want to go ahead and put this on?
Yeah, there's no reason why we couldn't.
Get this out.
We can go ahead and hook this one back up too.
All right. It's like Wonder Twins. All right. How are we looking, guys? I also have to remember this. Yeah. That's fine. We did forget it.
That's right.
Everybody kind of makes mistakes from time to time.
Normally ends up with me taking a shower on this,
Exactly,
though.
yeah.
Actually, now might be a good time while we've got that laid out
Go ahead and,
to put the multicolored wiring harness back together.
yeah. So while you have everything out there, while y'all are hooking that back up, go ahead and take your multi-wiring harness and plug it back up to the cable coming from the motor of the bypass.
Flip it over.
Yeah.
And the reason we want to do this now is because once we put the control board and the surge box in, we want this to run behind that. And if we do it afterwards, it's
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to do that. So. I did leave off one clip on the outlet. There is, I know we had a clip that we put the bypass on, and then we connected it to our secondary heat exchanger. There's also the clip that goes on the outlet itself. We're going to need to put that back on, unless you probably already did that. More than likely, they already did that. So.
our engineer was telling me a story when he was working on these in the field that he left the clip off the inlet.
Yeah.
And when they turned water pressure on it, popped it out, and he got a shower.
Yeah, that's what happens. Yeah.
It's not forgiving.
No. All right. Well. Yeah. Let's go ahead and put that the condensate hose back in. Now, don't connect the heater to it yet, because we're going to do that after we get the fan and we get the gas valve and the control board on there. But the next thing, right after we're done with that, what we're going to do is go ahead and connect our fan. Let's go ahead and put our fan back on. And again, it's got a channel in here that the fan's going to rest on.
We can just slide that in.
And then it
stands right up.
It stands up. So when you're doing this in the field, you'll be doing this, on the vertical unit. You're going to use one hand to hold it up, and the other hand to put the screw in there. So, whoop, I'm trying to do too much. Talk at the same time. I'd rather it be sitting up. But these two screws are different. These two screws have the washer on them, and they're the hex head screw.
It's a quarter-inch hex
quarter
head with the Phillips slots.
But they've tried to make it as easy as possible. They try to line it up where it just rests in there, and you lift up on that fan, and you can get it. Get it back together as easy as possible. That's what they've done with a lot of the wiring harness as well. Is it's kind of molded to where you know where you're putting it. Now our white wires. Are going to go up to our safety. So go ahead and take the fan motor. You've got the connection to your fan motor is this red connection, but then you've got a wiring harness on here that should be zip tied. That's going to our safeties up at the top. You can go ahead and put those on now. It's our dual safety at the top.
For our exhaust thermistor and our exhaust high limit.
That's going to be part that we're going to use this to kind of hold them together, bundle them together. Make sure we got all this out.
We should probably just take and hang these.
Yeah, because there we go. Okay. And I think the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put on the gas valve. So when we get the fan in, we've connected the two safeties together. We're going to go ahead and put our gas valve in now.
Are we ready? Still working on one?
The best way to do the gas valve is this. Make sure that you put your wiring harness on before you install it. Because we get a lot of people that put the gas valve in, they're like, oh, I forgot to hook up the wires. Yeah, we got to make sure we put that in there. So, again, you can tell how they're kind of molded to where they're supposed to go, but you're going to look at the numbers on the wiring harness, and we're going to match them up to the numbers on our solenoid valve. So I've got a number 3 here.
And number 3 is going to go
Number 3 is going to go right here to our main solenoid valve. And we already have our modulating solenoid valve, already has the wiring harness. Now I'm going to do the rest here. So actually I do this backwards usually. So 73, I'm suggesting it's that one. Guessing, it is.
Okay.
And then we're going to, 9 is the one on the left. Which, yeah, on your left, and then we've got 53 on the right here. I kind of bent them up, didn't mean to. These are the only ones you can kind of make a mistake with these. Because if you put the wrong connection to the wrong solenoid valve, then one of them is going to open up that's not supposed to, and you can have some problems. So we've got all of them connected. Make sure our wires are out of the way. Now we're going to go ahead and put our manifold and gas valve back on. So what you're going to do is you're going to put it on the gas connection, and kind of push down on, you can feel it slide over that O-ring, and then we're going to kind of line it up. Am I on something?
I think maybe on there a little crooked.
I can't see from over there. But you can see the, when you look down through there, where the brass screw is going to go, we want to make sure that it's right. You got it. And just make sure all your holes line up. The brass screw is going to go at the gas valve connection at the bottom there on the inlet. Put that one on.
Now the rest of the screws around the periphery are going to hold the igniter and the surge box.
Yeah, we're going to make sure we're putting those on with
we'll just do them one at a time once we get the...
And then we've got a couple others here. We got the surge box. We also have our pigtail holder, and then we've got a couple grounds.
Right now is probably a good time to go ahead and make sure that we get that hose placed back on that proportional valve.
Yeah, because that's another thing. You know, we don't want to leave that out as well, because we are measuring that pressure of the burner chamber.
Yeah, it's a safety. It's going to prevent the heater from operating in an unsafe condition.
All right, so let's go ahead. How you doing with that, Mitch? You all right? Yeah, it's easier to put that gas valve in vertical, though, isn't it? Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and put our igniter box on.
And just hold these purple wires up and out of the side so they don't fall down and get forgotten.
And make sure it's the right one, because you're going to be going to the igniter. Your igniter is going to be on the right-hand side when you're facing the unit, so just make sure you're lined up. That's the correct position for the box, and that's the larger screw.
That's on the upper right-hand side of that manifold.
Yep. And now we're going to put, I'm going to go ahead and put the surge box on. Get all my wires, okay. All my wires are out of the way. Okay, and it's just going to line up. Now, on this, though, I've got one ground will be going on right here.
Mm-hmm.
And it, it's going to go like that.
Yeah, right off the power cord.
Yeah, so this is my power cord. I'm going to make sure that I've got my connection here.
I'm going to go ahead and put that one on.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get that. So my ground from my power cord is going to go on the bottom screw of the surge protector, or surge box. And the top one is nothing. It's just a screw.
And on the opposite side, underneath our igniter, that's also just a screw. We're not holding anything in place. We'll go ahead and put that one in.
And then above the surge protector, we've got one that's not holding anything as well. So we got those in. So we should have everything. The gas valve should be installed. We've got our incoming power wires. They go into the surge box, so you've got your two incoming power right here. That's going to go into the surge box. You can go ahead and plug that in.
So I'm just making sure that we got our wires out where we can get to everything.
And you can go ahead and plug the other side in as well on the surge box. It's the other black and white. We got everything out. Okay.
So, let me put the flow valve in next.
When y'all are ready, we'll go ahead and put that flow valve in, and then we'll get to the... Okay, all right.
Go ahead and put that sucker back in.
Oh yeah, we missed one, didn't we?
We're leaving that one out for the AFR ground.
Right.
I don't know if we want to tell them that. Don't
Yeah.
put that one in.
Yeah, let's don't, there is one other screw that you'll be putting on the manifold on the bottom side right next to the connection for the incoming power, the pigtail here. Leave that one out for now because we're going to put our AFR rod, we're going to put the ground for it right there. So we'll leave that one open. It's actually right here. Best thing ever made.
Yeah, that's a lifesaver.
Yeah, one of the things that we're using, and you know, if you do a lot of work on these units, it would be a really good investment to get a magnetic tray for your screws. They can set anywhere on the unit. I usually set it on the side of it, and you know, all your screws are going to be on there. It's all magnetic, so I can set it on the side of the unit, work on the unit, put all the screws there, and know that they're going to be there.
And that magnet is coated with plastic.
It's very heavy duty too.
So that it doesn't scratch the
Yes.
finish.
Yeah, we're going to do the flow control now. Held in by 2 clips.
We're just going to...
And make sure you're doing the right, it's oriented right, where the propeller's on the bottom.
I don't think it'll fit the other way. It won't.
Yeah. Now again, this is the only time that you're going to have a different clip. There's the silver clip is going on the inlet side of this valve. That silver clip is unique. And then you've got the other large clip.
On the plastic.
Shoot. Yeah, you're right.
I did the same thing the other day.
The larger side's the plastic, the other side is the brass piece. And once you get that in, I guess that's the next thing we're gonna do is we'll do the flame sensor igniter, and then we'll save the best for last. We'll save the control board for last. That's the fun part, yeah. But hey, you take your time. They all have one place to go, and really, that you can't. You know, as long as you take your time, you don't force it in there. They'll all go in one area.
The worst thing that you're going to do, as long as you don't force them, is leave a wire off, and
yeah,
the control will tell you
something's wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Looks like they're ready.
All right, so let's go ahead. Remember the 3 smaller screws. But again, the gasket is something that we need to be kind of careful with.
Yeah, the gasket's fragile. If the heater's been in use, you probably want to use a new gasket. Make sure that the sight glass is in first. And then we're going to lay the gasket down. Now you see the igniter has got this horseshoe shape, and it can only fit in one way.
Which is good.
The AFR and flame rod, it can actually fit in either way, but we want to make sure that when we're lining it up that we've got the wire connections pointed back towards where our control board's going to be. That's going to be a little easier if you take and put the flame rod and AFR rod through the gasket holder first, or the rod holder first.
And then kind of hold it and angle it in there.
And then everything lines right up.
And then put those 3 smaller screws on. And you can go ahead and connect your igniter. Put the rubber boot back on the igniter once you've done that.
Yeah, make sure that you slide that rubber boot back over, and that prevents the spark from jumping over to this case outside.
And then you have your wiring harness for your AFR and flame sensors right here. It also has a ground on it, right there. All right, so this ground's going to be attached to our manifold door here, but you can go ahead and connect the AFR rod, which is the one with the lock.
And you'll feel it snap in place.
You can hear it and feel it, yeah. And then we'll put our ground back on. And once you've done that, you've got everything in the right connection, and your flame sensor igniter is installed right.
I'm going to go ahead and loop those around.
Okay. Now we do have one other thing that we need to hook up. Well, we've already got this one.
Actually,
let's do that after. Let's do that after. We'll do that after because we'll put that on. Now let's go ahead and put the control board on, and we'll be good.
So we've got those 2
tabs,
or I don't know if we can. There we go. Yeah, there we are. And they're just going to fit right in these holes in the bottom of the box.
And just try to make sure you've got all the wiring outside out from underneath.
Let's take this one.
Yeah.
Underneath. Let me show the tabs from the outside.
Right here? Mm-hmm. Yeah, just make sure that, yeah, there we go. See how it just kind of fits in there. Held in by 1 screw. So you should only have 4 screws left. And what 4 screws are those? The door, right? If you got 6 or 7 screws left, we'll have to, go back over some stuff. But usually we have 1 or 2 left over, don't we?
Yeah, normally we, at least, no.
All right. So now we're going to go ahead and connect all of the wiring. Again, it's all unique, so you really can't get the wrong one. Just try not to force it. But the wiring harness...
Don't forget to hook the heater back up for our condensate trap.
Yes. And...
the heat exchanger thermistor.
And we have a heat exchanger thermistor that's across over here by the condensate. We got to, and that's
hooked in with our multi-link or easy link.
Yes, and we have this here, and this cluster of wires are going to go on this where it says remote controller. Go ahead and tie those together with this red piece that's going to actually hold up there. But that's the easiest way to do it. Once you do that, then you know that your thermistor for your heat exchanger is connected there. Now we've got those wires where they're supposed to be. And then if you look at the wiring harness, it kind of shows you kind of where you're supposed to put them, the way it's zip tied.
Yeah.
And that's really how we kind of figure out where everything goes. It's molded to really where everything is supposed to be connected.
And they'll only fit in the appropriate channels, so if there's some resistance, don't force these in place. Make sure that it's the right plug for that Molex connector.
Oh, that was the wrong one. What did I do?
So there's our thermistors and our Easy Link wires.
And now we're going to have our bypass.
Oh no,
Oh, no. Yeah.
we were just
Going
right
on. Sorry about that, guys.
This is the best reassemble we've ever done. And as soon as I say that, we're going to forget.
Yeah, we may have to come back. Dude, I think this is
This is
kind of
a
tight. Okay, it's just kind of tight.
Do these go in front? We can take them in front.
I don't remember. I think they may go.
I was thinking the only thing that was in front were these.
All right, sorry about that, guys. Y'all hear me? I can't hear them. Oh, we're good? All right. Yeah. Okay.
So that's our fan motor harness that we connect right there.
Yeah, I think that's really tight.
We can take those loose and feed them back over.
Yeah. You don't want everything to be really, really tight when you're putting them on. So the thing about it is sometimes it can go either under or over the control board and the surge protector. You just want to make sure everything kind of fits easy. So kind of lay out your wiring harness. Everything should kind of find its way into the right connection because the way it's molded. And if it's really tight and you're really having to pull on it, then you may have something bind it up, and you're going to need to kind of go in there and check which one is. That's it.
Thermistors. These go right up here on the front.
Yeah, on the front.
If you want to take them underneath that. I think they're right there.
Yeah,
next to
they
each
are.
other.
What's going on? Say that again. Yeah, the purple wire.
Yeah,
That's our igniter. That's going to be our last thing we're going to put on.
I was going to mention there's a few wires that are typical that we'll forget, and they're hanging out over here on the side, and that's the igniter,
And this.
the AFR and flame sensor, and then the proportional valve. So, and I think we're ready for those.
Yeah, we are.
I'm going to take the AFR and flame rod. Then we've got the proportional valve. It goes over.
Yeah. No. This goes way over here.
Oh. And then we've got our igniter. It plugs in right here at the top of the board. Yeah, the igniter plugs in right here at the top.
So there should be a couple that are left open. We know that the middle one here is going to be for our
Temperature
controller. But everything else, you know, you can just kind of double check everything before we're going to go ahead and get these all bundled together. But this should just rest here. Should have, and it looks pretty good. What you got? They may not be able to see it. May want to get a good close-up of this. There you go. Which one are you looking at, y'all? This guy? Okay, this one, it's coming from your surge box.
It's the power switch.
It's our power switch. You've got a ground that's connected to the surge box, and then that's our power going from the on-off switch.
Yeah, the other end of that harness plugs into the back side of this on-off switch.
Yeah. Did you unplug that? Okay, well then you'll need to take off the surge box, and here, I'll show you what it looks like. You got it? Oh, okay. So that's our flow sensor. Okay. This right here, we haven't plugged this in yet. This should be the only one that's open, and that's for our temperature controller.
And these two.
Yeah, and you'll got two down here. I mean, on this side, that's what I meant. But yeah, there should be 3 wide open, and one of them we're going to use for a temperature controller.
And then I'm just going to put those back under the keepers to keep them clean.
Yeah, and you've got two sides, so you can kind of just, again, you don't want to pull them really tight, but you know, if they can go in there, it's always a good idea to kind of get everything out of the way. Off of the fan, okay? You got it? Okay. It's going to be the red, you're talking about the red piece? Okay. Wait. I can't see here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the red, yeah. And you know, on the back side of the door, you know, with the instruction manual, you're going to have, or not on the back side of the door, but yeah, this comes with the maintenance sheet. You also get a couple screws. So, and if you look at the screws, they're actually the bigger screws. So, you know, if you do drop one down in there, they do come with a couple extra, and they're the larger screws because those are the most common ones we take apart. And we showed them we showed them the maintenance sheet in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's all you should have, because the last thing, you know, it's putting on the control board. or excuse me, the temperature controller. But yeah, you should only have 2 opening. Where were you putting that? Way over here. All right. Any questions?
And other than putting the door back on, we've got it completely reassembled.
Yeah, I've got the door right here. I'll go ahead and put it back on and button it up.
2 for you.
Yes, sir. Do you need us to keep this off, or are we all right? We're good. All right. Yeah, the controller's going to go in on the side with all the other wires. There should be one wide open, connection wide open. That's where the controller goes, and all right. Well, y'all have any questions that we can cover real quick, or? I hope this helped. Did this help you today? Good. Good. Yeah, and remember, this is going to be put up on. You're going to be able to go back and look at this. You know, it'll be online. You can watch some of the videos that we've done in the past on not only just Tankless, but on any of our product. We have a number of different videos that you can go back and watch at any point in time. But, you know, and you're on the site now, so you can go ahead and kind of browse around the site, look at all the things that we've done. But this video should end up being up there pretty soon, so you'll be able to see the teardown. There is an actual teardown on there already. But you know, if you don't have any questions, I guess that about does it.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the question? Right. Yeah. Yeah. What you're going to want to do is you know, run the water heater, have everything open. You're running water, hot water. Get it up to 140 degrees because it's going to close at the bypass is going to close at 130. Now this is only on the 199s. It's not on the 140 or any of the other condensing.
The under 199,000 BTU, we don't have the bypass valve, so that's only going to be 199,000 in larger heaters.
So you'll run it up to 140 because you know that it's going to end up closing the bypass. Let it run for a couple minutes, and then you can just unplug the unit. And then you can go ahead and valve off the unit, because if you turn off the water then unplug it, you run the risk of it closing that bypass. So you want to unplug it while it's running. The water's running and it's at 140 degrees. Then you unplug it. Then you can shut off the water and valve it off. You can have your lines already hooked on there. Open up the isolation kit and run the pump run it for 45 minutes with that food grade vinegar, and get all that out of there, and then you know, then you can open it back up and make sure that you get all that that deliming solution out.
And by unplugging it, you know that the heater
Yeah,
can't come
you-
on while you're pumping your vinegar. through
Exactly.
there.
You don't. I mean, you can turn it off. The on-off switch that's underneath the top here. You can turn it off, but it's a lot easier just to unplug it, just to make sure you know that it has no power to it. All we don't want the bypass to open. That's the whole reason behind that. All right? All right. Well, we really appreciate your patience and time. Had a good time doing this, and again, take a look at that website. You know, there's a lot of stuff on there that you can look at. If you need help in the field, you can email us at help@hotwater. That's our technical support center. They'll be more than happy to help you, or you can call 1-800-527-1953.
Yep.
That's the technical support. But if you have any questions about the videos or anything that's related to the website that you're on now, you can email us at university@hotwater.com. But it was fun.
I think it's the best one yet.
Yep. And Mike is officially with the training department. He is a trainer now, so you can. It's good to have you, buddy.
Thanks, man.
All right.
I'm enjoying it.
All right. Well, we really appreciate y'all tuning in. But for Mike Dial, I'm Jerry Winslet. We'll see you next time. Okay.